Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So it's time for another monthly ATC swap over on the Isle of IndigoBlu Facebook group. My swap partner this month is the lovely Sarah. And the theme for the ATC swap this month is grunge. Grungy like, anything grungy. So grunge it up. So I thought today I would play with some autumn colours and also bring in some distressing, so rusty hinge and vintage photo to do the grungy bit, which is what we like, and maybe some splatters and the rest of it. So let's get to it. So I've got some bits and pieces here already. I've got some foam pads for dimensionality. Is that a word? I'm sure it is. I've got my distress inks there. So what I've done is I've used my laser cutter and I've cut out some of those fabulous kind of distressed skeleton leaf shapes that I've got the cut files for. So these are cut out of the carte noire, the black card, so black on one side, white on the other. I'm not selling these, by the way, for various reasons. But this is just for personal use. So I've cut these on the laser cutter and I thought, well, they are grungy because you've already got kind of like the burn marks from the laser cutter. But are they grungy enough? So instead of using those, I thought I would employ something else. So I had a look to see what kind of old packaging and stuff that I was actually going to put in for recycling. And I found some of the cardboard from one of the boys' dog food pouch boxes, which I use for lots of different things because the cardstock is quite nice. As you can see, it's got writing on the other side and I kind of like that. And this stuff is, it's 2mm E-flute corrugated cardboard. And if you don't know what that is, let me just show you. I think I've got some over here somewhere. There we go. So this is corrugated cardboard and I don't know whether you can see the flute on the inside. That's what they call it, flute. So it's 3 layers, 2 layers creating a sandwich, and then you've got that corrugation inside, and it's only 2mm thick, and you can actually buy it for packaging and for putting into parcels and things for stability if you don't want them bending and that kind of thing. And that's what they use in the packaging for the dog pouch boxes, and I kind of like that, you know, but I don't know whether I want to use the side. Maybe I want to use the craft card size or side today, so I'm going to put those to one side for another day. Let me just have a look. I did do 2 sets of these because I thought, well, there's no writing on that one. So let me have a look at the other one. There's a bit of writing on that one, so I might use that side, but it's upside down. And that's the other problem. Now, I think I'm going to stick. So I'm doing this on the fly. I'm doing it on the fly. So I'm going to stick with that side. So we're going to grunge that up to start off with. So first things first, let's grab some rusty hinge. And then let's just start adding some of those kind of nice warm kind of autumnal colours. And because we're doing it onto corrugated cardboard, which already is a kind of craft colour, then it will kind of darken off, which we don't mind. And as well as being that kind of like nice autumnal colour, if you grab some water, not a lot, mind you, you don't want a lot of water because you are working with cardboard, you could just add a little bit. Where's my little hose thing? There we go. I have to try and, I should have brought some more water. I have got some more water, haven't I? Let's use that bigger bottle. There we go. You see how it activates the ink? Just to give it that little bit more, and then we can just rub and wet it down like so. And then we can put that to one side, let that dry, or let them dry. Put the lid back on my rusty hinge, and then we can just wipe down the work surface. Got a brand new roll today, look, way. Push the boat out, bought a new one. All right, let's clear that up. And then bring in the bases for the ATCs. Because we're using craft cardstock now, I thought we'd use craft for the base for the ATCs as well. So let's grab that vintage photo. And then we can start grunging up the edges. Of course, if you really wanted to go grungy, you could tear your ATCs. So let's go around the edges with that. All right, so that's the grunge with that distress around the outside of those. So let's pop those to one side now, and then let's bring in the next layer. So I'm going to be doing some cluster layering today. So I've got some music paper that I've already cut into reasonable sized pieces. So what I want to do with that again is bring in some of that rusty hinge on the worktop, spritz it, and then let's start picking up some of that nice kind of autumnal orange for the background. Lovely. Like it, like it, like it. Look, I'm already getting dirty fingers, which is perfect. You always know you've had fun when you've got messy and dirty hands. And that's true for most things in life. All right, so there's a little bit on the edge there, which I'm just going to put down on there and then flip that over and pick it up at the other side because it's a little bit sparse at that side. There we go, that'll do. And grab my heat gun. Excuse my elbows. Right, so that's the rusty hinge. So then let's just grab that vintage photo, and then also let's just add a little bit of that darkness around the outside too. So because I'm absolutely rubbish, what I'm doing is I'm relying on the numbers on the background of the paper to let me know which way is the right way up, because I can't read music anymore. I used to be able to a long time ago in my youth when I used to play clarinet. But gone, those skills have gone now. I couldn't remember how to do it even if I tried. Okay, so let's just bring those leaf shapes back in again. Now then, I want to add a little bit more colour to that. So I'm going to jump into my VersaFine Clair. This is summertime. And as you can see, that's a really nice kind of orangey colour. Now, I can't remember whether these are water reactive or alcohol reactive. So they look like they're alcohol reactive. So let me just grab some of that. Yeah, that's the stuff. So we're doing the same thing again, but this time we're using alcohol and that other ink. I'm trying not to get too wet. See, with the alcohol, it's not too much of a problem because it will evaporate, and it evaporates fairly quickly. Let's just drop that in. So it is starting to get a little bit soft. So what we need to do is to dry that off, and then I'll be right back and I'll clean this little mess up over here as well. Let's do a bit of multitasking. All right, so they've started to lighten up a lot. So what I want to do is I want to add some more opaque orange. So I've got some Americana bright orange. We're not going to use a huge amount of this because all I want to do, if I can get a brush, is just create a little bit of a wash. There we go. And then we can just add some orangey splatters. And again, it will die down a little bit due to the nature of the paint and the fact we're using craft card. So it will die back. Okay, let's get that dried. All right, so nice and dry. So I thought I would also add a little bit of gold into that too, seeing as we're playing with autumnal colours. So let's grab some of my gilding gum, which is a kind of like a gloss when it dries. I'm dipping into my grungy gold pigment. I'm going to create a little bit of a grungy gold paint effect. Just go over, just kind of dry brush. Can you see how it's picking up that gold in there? And it's very subtly picking up the corrugation as well. Like it. We like it when it's subtle. Doesn't always have to be in your face. There we go, just straighten that out a little bit. And since it's grungy gold, that's what it says on the label, then I think it kind of fits right in. Grungy gold, there we go. So it should be allowed. And also, seeing as it's the IndigoBlu 80C swap, then we ought to be using at least one IndigoBlu product. So there we go. Right. So now we've got that. Let's come back in with that distressing, that vintage photo. And let's add a little bit around the outside. Just because, just to kind of frame it. Those luscious pigment powders, by the way, in that grungy gold, they dry with that gilding gum, which is also IndigoBlu. They dry very, very quickly. So you don't really have to wait for it to dry before you go in and do like a second coat. It's marvellous that way. Absolutely splendid. All right, so we've got those layers there. We've got our ATC cards there, but we want to add a few more little layers behind that. So I've got some mesh, some little bits of mesh, which I think could do with grunging up a little bit. So again, let's go back to that rusty hinge and add a bit onto the worktop. Now I'm hoping that this is going to activate it. I'm going to work on there. Pick up, and it's not just plastic. It will have some kind of absorbency. Let's just get all three of them together. There we go. And of course, once I try to dry this, hopefully it's not going to melt. Not melted, but it did try and get away. But it did dry very, very quickly. So I'll just grab another wet wipe. With grunge comes much tidying up. There we go. All right. So we've now got some grungy mesh, and then just to finish that off, I've got some burlap as well. So again, let's bring in that brown and just darken up the burlap a little. And all I'm doing is just rubbing the ink pad on the burlap, but because it's got an uneven surface, the texture of the burlap will grab from the ink pad. All right, so I think we're just about ready. Yeah, look at my fingers. Yeah, mucky pup. Such a dirty boy. Right. So let's start gluing stuff down. Now, what should we use for glue? Let's use the clear stuff. So first of all then, let's get the music paper. All right, last one. All right, so next will be the mesh. So we'll just put some of that down on there, and that should theoretically stick down because the glue will go between the holes on the mesh. Nice kind of textured layers. Like so. And then we'll do the same thing for the bits of burlap. Yeah, we'll do the same thing for the bits of burlap, I think. Big blob of glue down. It should kind of like push through into the fabric, and it will hold. And it doesn't matter obviously if any of them, if they're not identical, because they should be each different. Similar, all of a set, but each one individual. All right, so the next thing then is we're going to stick down the the leaves onto our background. But to do that, I'm going to use foam pads, 3-dimensional foam pads. I did have a sheet of these already open somewhere. All right. They're just little foam dots. So let's just turn each one over. Like so, and then we can just add no, I probably haven't used these for such a long time because they're as fiddly as heck. I think 3 should do. Well, that worked. All right. Because they're small, you can get them into all of the little kind of nooks and crannies within the shapes. I think on this one we'll use 4. All right. Nice bit of autumn grunge. Right, let me have a quick tidy up and then we'll get on to the last bit. All right, so I've got some of the Tim Holtz. I think these are, they've been separated from the main cover for such a long time. These are all, I think, small chat. Don't know, think probably. So all I'm going to do is just pick 3 words from just the one sheet that have a sort of connection. So let's have a look. So let's do them kind of arty related, seeing as we are. So we've got create and we've got art and we've got inspire. I don't want to put art in there, but create's a good one, inspire's another one. And then how about discover? You see, they're decent enough. So I'm going to put one there, discover. Let's put, yeah, create. Like that, and we said inspire, didn't we? If I can put it as again, there we are, inspire. Stick those down like so, and then I'll just grab my scissors, and I think the glue or the gum that makes these sticky stickers has started to wear off. Yeah, there's hardly any glue left on these, so I'm going to have to put my own on. Obviously they don't last very long. Okay, so we'll start that little exercise again. Discover, don't drop, create, and inspire. I'll just push it and squidge it, that way the glue will move underneath. Alright, so let's just cut those out. I'm leaving a decent sort of border. A nice kind of frame. And it, like I said, it doesn't really make any difference if you don't stick them down straight, because you can just cut them out. There we go. You can cut them out and nobody will be any the wiser. Alright, of course, they can't be clean. We need to grunge. Grunge and distress to within an inch of its life. So that's the reason why I left a decent kind of border all the way around, because it does allow you to add the grunge without going too close to the actual word itself, without having to hide or mess up the word itself. There we go. And I'm trying to keep that cluster. Let's bring those down a little bit. I'll try and zoom in a little bit on the edit. I'm trying to keep that, the word where the burlap is underneath, just to kind of keep it all together in one place. And then I'm just going to glue those on. I'm not going to add another dimension, because I do want to put them in a little plastic wallet when I send them away. So I'll send them to Sarah so that they're protected. There we go. So they do kind of all fit together. They are kind of in a theme, and they are grungy. I might come in before I send them and maybe just rough up the edges a little bit. I'll have to wait and see. But those intrinsically are the three ATCs for the IndigoBlu. I can't even speak. The I Love IndigoBlu Facebook group ATC swap for September, and the theme being grunge. There you go. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create these ATCs for the swap. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. And don't forget, you can access your exclusive angel-only content over on my website. There's a link in the description area below. Thank you.